been very much involved in knowing how to care for them. But I had to learn that. It wasn't something that I just knew naturally. And so what happened to us when we moved to the far north, on the west coast of James Bay, I became very much aware of animal care and some of the neglect that happened because people just weren't aware how to take care of the animals now that they weren't needed for work and that they were also a burden at times. It's not because people don't want to take care of their dogs that there's neglect. It's because sometimes people just don't know or just don't have the experience. So that's one of the reasons why I'm a very active member. Sometimes dogs get away. The best trained dog can sometimes go, oh, there goes something down the street I want to chase, and they're off and running. And it's important that a dog has a tag so that if the dog does get away, it can be returned to its owner. Some children are afraid of dogs, and there is a possibility that sometimes somebody can get harmed because of a dog getting away. I think also it's good for a community to know the number of animals that they do have and what they could support within that particular community. And I think also it's important for safety as one of the number. Usually because they say, well, I don't know where the dog came from, I don't know what it's experienced, I don't know how it's been treated. It's not a puppy, and puppies are so cute, and I think I can shape its behavior, all of those things. It means that a dog that already is alive and waiting to be adopted isn't going to get a chance. Having the number of rescue dogs that I've had in my life, I have never found one that couldn't be rehabilitated. We had one who had fear aggression, and it took us over a year to actually rehabilitate that dog. And then of course by that time he's not going anywhere. He became part of our family. There needs to be rescues, and it's not just a LaRange problem, it's not just a Saskatchewan problem, it's a world problem.
Okay.
Just because
That's Jordan. Now you stop barking at her. Start barking at her. Say hello to Benji is a little foster dog we've had for about 6 years. And she was found outside a lady's house freezing to death, and she was just a little puppy. And so the town of LaRange dog pound person came over and asked me if I would take her home for the weekend. It was a long weekend, and he didn't want to put her into the pound because it was a cold cement floor and big dogs in there, and she was just a little scared thing. And so I took her in for the weekend, and she ended up staying here because she's a little terrier and she has such character. And took her a long time to warm up to us because she was very frightened. And but eventually she settled in quite nicely. Spooky over here is the one we just had since January. It was a year in January, and she was found outside North March. She was seen there a couple of times. Scavenging. She was very skinny and cold, and the people who found her already have 2 rescue dogs, so they couldn't take her in, and they brought her over to us in December. It was just before Christmas. And so as soon as she came into the house, and after about a few weeks, we decided we just couldn't give her up. And so even though she was advertised and stuff, the longer we had her, the more we thought we couldn't give her up. Once you shelter a dog for a while, it's really hard to give them up. I think because we see the need in the community for better control or facilities to look after lost or dumped animals, because it's really sad, and I've seen sad dogs that are so frightened, and I've tried to put food out for them, but they're so afraid that they just run away, and you know that they're going to die, they're going to freeze to death, and they're going to starve to death. And I think whatever we can do to help, just help take away some of the pain and the suffering away from these animals is worth it. Really is. It's really worth it. And it's amazing with just some kindness and gentleness, how you can see their personalities coming out, and they're not near as frightened. So we've had a number of dogs go through our home. These two, of course, have kept, but that's the limit.
I maintain the kennel, clean the kennel, feed any animals that are in the kennel, work directly with Northern Animal Rescue for them to meet with them to give the animals shots. They deworm some of the animals, and they have some medicine for some of the animals. And I meet them here when they have time and do the best I can to help them out to be here when they are available, and they are all volunteers. And I do get paid by the town to run the kennel and be the dog catcher as well, animal patrol officer, if you will. And pretty well, just my phone rings, like it did this morning. There's a dog over on Studer. Animals follow kids to school, animals get out of the yards, animals can hurt people. I work with the RCMP as well as Northern Animal Rescue in any situation 24/7. And in the daytime I work, I'm kind of part-time, but I run the kennel. I take care of the animals that are in the kennel, as well as I'm on emergency call in case there's an animal hit by a car. And it's very important. It's very necessary because the town does charge a fee for licensing their animals. But in licensing your animal is tracked, so if you happen to have your cat or your dog get out and you lose it, and somebody finds it, they can just call the town can say, hey, that's this person's animal.
I found that he was very responsive. I found that he wanted the best for the dogs himself. And when I phoned him, he was there when he was needed. And I think that the dog catcher that we currently have works very hard to make sure that the animals are taken care of properly.
I put paper down when I'm washing, but I've got a new rubber that's going to be going in here. But we used all the recycled paper that goes to the town recycle yard for the animals to sleep in. We tried blankets, we tried towels. We tried to find out a few chewy toys. We give them milk bones. Little animals get little animal food, big animals get big animal food. It's not super posh, but they live very healthy in here. It's heated. If an animal's dirty or needs to be cleaned, we generally will have the animal cleaned up. Some little animals like puppies, and cats, I have an 8-year-old little girl, and most of them don't come in here. They come home with us until they're adopted out. And we have probably done that 60, 70 times. We always have a pet at our house, or other people will actually adopt them temporarily until we find a home. But most of the animals go out of the community, which is really important, to farms and with other non-profit groups to put the animals wherever they can be safe. But generally, animals that come in here within a week to 10 days, sometimes overnight, after 72 hours, if nobody shows interest, they're shipped south comfortably by people who pay for their own fuel on their own time to get them to a better place. And that's Northern Animal Rescue. Hats off to them.
I think it shows that they care about the animals and they care about the people in the community, because they're trying to make sure that if an animal is lost, they have a tag service that's available for people to purchase, and it's very reasonable. I realize that the cost for an unneutered male or an unspayed female may seem high to people, but also so is having puppies. So I really think that what they're doing is reasonable. I think it shows that they care about safety. I think it shows that they care about the animals. And I really feel that it helps if my dog was to get away, that I would feel confident that they would call me up and say, here's your dog. I think it speaks very well for the town that they've actually put some service in place.